What's up, world? I'm Matt Newberg from Hungary, and this is The Feed. Each episode, we'll dive into conversations with the industry insiders who are leveraging technology to shape the way we eat. On today's episode of The Feed, I sat down with Edward Shenderovich, co-founder and CEO of Synonym, a developer of shared and dedicated commercial-scale biomanufacturing facilities. In this episode, we'll talk about the myriad use cases for fermentation in pharmaceuticals to textiles and food, how Synonym is creating a new asset class for investors, and how fermentation as a service can unlock a wide range of applications we have yet to fully appreciate. Great to have you here, Edward. Thanks so much for taking the time. I'd love to just kind of start with your background, really fascinating. Talk about your kind of entrepreneurial journey and some of the boards that you sat in on, Plated, Delivery Hero, and then kind of how you discovered the problem that led to Synonym today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been an investor and entrepreneur for the last 25 years or so. I started my career almost right out of college in the late 90s. I started an internet software business with a friend who was who was a computer scientist at Berkeley, and it wasn't a huge success, but it was an amazing learning experience. I then joined Silicon Valley Bank and ultimately became their first internet analyst. There were lots of companies that were passing through me, and I think I learned a lot about business models and about financial analysis and certainly about industry analysis. And as a result, I think I started a company that was focused on content management software and e-commerce. We built a software platform. The company was called Quantum Art. We then spun out another business out of that called Merchantry, which was building marketplaces, and ended up partnering with Amazon and their early marketplace that they were building in early 2000s. So that was a phenomenal experience. Merchantry was later acquired by a San Francisco-based company called Tradeshift, and we ended up building a number of interesting marketplace products. But I then became an investor, and in my investment activities, I primarily focused on companies that touch the real world. We ended up being the founding investor of a company called Delivery Hero, which is one of the largest online food ordering delivery companies, now public in Germany. And I remember it still being a PowerPoint. I left the board when the company went public, and partnered in a very similar way with the guys that were building Plated in New York. Which was a data-driven meal kit business, ultimately acquired by Albertsons. And I learned a lot about, as an investor and a board member in these businesses, I learned a lot about food systems. And sitting at board meetings and talking about placing advanced orders on animal proteins seemed daunting. I mean, once you delve into animal supply chains, you start understanding that a lot of that industry is broken, and we spent a lot of time doing that. So I then had a detour from investment. I built a company called Knotel, which was also technology touching the real world, and we very quickly became one of the leading flex office businesses in the world, with close to 5 million square feet under management. All enterprise, and that also made me passionate about issues of climate. So the dealing with animal agriculture, and then dealing with the world of construction, showed me that many of these industries that are being touched by technology are still highly wasteful. And I thought, well, maybe I can go deeper, and started exploring SynBio, the synthetic biology, as a platform for addressing some of our climate change problems that stem from animal agriculture and from construction and from other industries. So, and then speaking with companies in the SynBio space, it was really clear that the promise is there, the technology may be there. They even have some customers, but there's a very evident bottleneck in biomanufacturing capacity that these companies cannot produce at scale. So we thought, interesting. If they have this problem, and it seems to be universal, maybe there's an opportunity to build a company that can solve this issue. And that's how we started working on Synonym.
Very cool. Very eager to dive in. Real quickly, when you talk about synthetic bio, just what's the lay of the land? I mean, obviously food is part of it, but what are the different verticals you think that fall underneath that?
Oh, I mean, this is something I can talk about for hours. There are several key categories that we can focus on. Firstly, there's definitely an opportunity in pharmaceuticals. So it's one of the largest. It is one of the largest consumers of biomanufacturing capacity today. It ranges from producing complex biotherapeutics such as monoclonal antibodies for treating diseases like cancer, to manufacturing vaccines and other biologics. And really, biomanufacturing has really revolutionized the pharma industry. There's also this biomanufacturing and specifically precision fermentation, or even in biomass fermentation, is being used in the biofuels industry. So companies are using biomanufacturing to convert organic matter to fuel sources. And it's a significant contributor to solving climate change problems. And everyone expects biofuels to continue. I mean, as the industry to continue as we seek sustainable energy solutions, and like specifically sustainable aviation fuel is one of the big areas of interest to the industry. There are biochemicals. So the chemical industry broadly uses biomanufacturing, and this can be anything from bioplastics, which are more environmentally friendly, to different organic acids and enzymes and different materials like bio-based rubber that can go into car wheels. Now, you may know that electric vehicles are significantly heavier than traditional vehicles, than gas-powered machines. So that requires different wheels, and it requires different type of rubber to be produced, and we're looking for other solutions. So there's also opportunities in biomanufacturing. The biomanufacturing can be applied to beauty and personal care, where we can produce bio-based collagen or keratin. There are also opportunities in textile. So you can create different biofabricated materials using, for example, spider silk, or making textiles using spider silk proteins. And of course there's food, which is a huge industry. And if we are to replace any of the products of animal agriculture, biomanufacturing is one of the key options for us to pursue. So, and there we're talking about two distinct approaches. One is precision fermentation, where we can make proteins like beta-lactoglobulin, which is the main protein in milk, or of albumin, it's the main protein in eggs, basically egg whites, and different variation. There are different other proteins like lactoferrin, which is also milk protein, important for our health, especially for infant health. And then there's our other area, which is also biomanufacturing, which is cultivated meats. Cultivated chicken and beef and other products, which would replace the need for animal agriculture or augment our use of animal agriculture.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to diving in. If we look at just like the alt protein space, so what do you've spoken to a lot of startups to try to formulate your thesis for Synonym. What was the common problem that you see facing many of these startups in the space that you're looking to solve?
Mm-hmm. I think that from my perspective, their biggest problem is scaling up production. It's really getting their products to market, but that calls for a few. I mean, that needs to be unpacked, because scaling up production requires some of these products to solve some technical challenges. While we've been using fermentation for thousands of years, precision fermentation has been used in pharma for the last 40. And some companies need to solve certain challenges in scaling. There can be issues of regulatory approval, but now that cultured meat has been approved for use in the U.S. And several other countries, that barrier seems to be something that's solvable. There are certainly capital problems. Companies need capital to build large scale production, and it's pretty difficult in this macroeconomic environment. So when we started Synonym, which was in very late 21, early 22, the macroeconomic environment was different. We were not in inflation. And or we were, but we as consumers or as business owners and entrepreneurs, we hadn't noticed that yet. The interest rates were still at zero. So being in this different macroeconomic environment slows everything down. So companies need customers. Customers are not making decisions as fast. It's hard to secure demand for meaningful volume of products. And everyone is more conservative. Boards are more conservative. Boards of large companies and small ones that need to allocate capital to new initiatives, like scaling up production. But I think, as an entrepreneur, I need to be an optimist, and I think we're making progress.
So give us like the elevator pitch for Synonym to these your customers who are these startups. Let's just say specifically, let's focus on the alt protein startups. Mm-hmm. What kind of technology and what kind of physical real estate and picks and shovels are you providing these companies?
So we started Synonym with the idea of solving the fermentation capacity gap, or solving the bottleneck in the industry, and the goal was to deliver fermentation as a service, to build the infrastructure, to design, develop, finance, and manage the infrastructure that's needed by synthetic biology companies to bring their products to market at scale. So we have a team that's working on facility design. It's a team of engineers that has dozens of years of experience in the space. We have a capital markets team that's working on financing these facilities. They come from infra investment funds or or investment banks where they focused on infra or renewable energy infrastructure. We also have a team of people that's working on development, site selection, and working with EPCs, the equipment procurement construction firms, or engineering procurement construction firms. And combined, I think we've built a very unique interdisciplinary team that can handle the process of designing, developing, and managing that capacity from start to finish, where the companies themselves don't need to focus on it. One of the biggest drivers of success for many companies in the internet space has been AWS. Before AWS, most companies needed to buy their own servers, bring them to co-location, to their co-location partners, manage these servers, have IT teams in charge of them. And when Facebook was financed, most of the capital that they initially raised went into servers, into supporting the infrastructure. When Uber was financed, AWS was already there. And they could just rely on those the rails that Amazon provided, as did many other companies that became super successful over the last 15 years. So we wanted to deliver something similar in the biomanufacturing space, specifically related to precision fermentation. So we want companies to have the peace of mind where we can come in as their strategic manufacturing partner and solve a lot of the problems that they're facing right now. And we're doing this with technology and software and data first approach.
Fascinating. It really does remind me a little bit of City Storage Systems, which is the parent company of Cloud Kitchens, buying properties, transforming them into distressed assets and transforming them for the internet age, essentially. And it's an interdisciplinary team and a constellation of different companies underneath it. Some are operating companies, some are property companies. You have that similar opco propco structure here, it seems.
We could. It could be an opco-propco structure that would work for real estate investors, where we can be the manager of those facilities, or we could project finance them with infrastructure investors, and that's really the goal, to show that biomanufacturing capacity can be a new asset class, where large capital allocators, like infrastructure funds or private equity or large family offices, can invest in these facilities as they would invest in data centers or self-storage, as you mentioned.
So, yeah, I mean that City Storage Systems is that's like the real estate company that's doing all the ghost kitchens, the cloud kitchens. What is the investor pitch? Like, what kind of returns would you be looking to pitch them? And how are they gonna realize this? Is it equity? Is it debt? And what's kind of the structure of these financing these facilities?
Yeah, I mean, we are hoping that if it does become a new industrial real estate asset class, the returns would be similar to what the returns are in other asset classes, maybe accounted for risk. So earlier investors would obviously have higher returns, and we're right now, through a combination of debt and equity, we are looking at mid-teen or high-teen returns for these investors, which is something that makes sense for them, because there's a lot of capital that's tied up in infrastructure funds. Infra funds that typically invest in bridges and power stations, and some may invest in hospitals. They are looking for new green asset classes, and they had been investing in data centers, which are now providing maybe 8% returns. They have been investing in like solar, which is also providing returns which are in single digits. So they're looking at new opportunities, and this is something that we think biomanufacturing as an asset class can deliver.
Fascinating. So all those returns are essentially just from like the quote unquote rental income that would come for startups to essentially be subtenants of these properties.
Yeah, and if you look at what many companies in the biotech space are going through right now, and what the way they do things on the bench scale is also using third-party infrastructure. Many of them are using infrastructure at Alexandria or IQHQ or other places which provide them labs. You see a lot of Boston commercial real estate, a lot of what was formerly office or industrial space turn into labs.
So I'm curious, like to really dive deeper into the actual offering, and it's really fascinating for you to come from this background of Knotel to now, you're now a completely different type of landlord, I guess, in this synthetic
or I don't know if Knotel was a landlord or if we'll end up being a landlord. But we don't necessarily want to be a landlord. We really want to be a partner for these companies that can help them get to production at scale.
Got it. So okay, platform.
Platform is great.
Yes, let's go with fermentation as a service platform. I like it. As a fermentation as a service platform, what do I get as a startup? So what do these facilities look like? First of all, what's shared and what is proprietary to me, and like how is it like AWS in the sense that as I become more successful as a brand and need more capacity, how do you deliver that?
Mm-hmm. So we have two approaches, we're trying to solve with both. We're trying to solve a problem that every company is facing. So, if you want to manufacture at scale, you can work with CMOs, with contract manufacturers, which don't have enough capacity right now, and that capacity is generally quite expensive. And you typically need to bring your own downstream processing, and there's not enough CMO capacity in the US, so you generally need to go overseas. CMOs, in many cases, are an efficient way for you to get to scale. It's not clear that that's a way where you can continue growing unless the CMO grows with you. Another approach is for you to build your own facility, but this is also suboptimal because in most cases you are in a company that has never built a large-scale facility before. You need to build your own development team. You need to build your own capital markets team, and you will need to manage that facility on your own. And these are skills that are not necessarily optimal for growing your venture-backed business. You really want to be investing in R&D or formulation and your commercialization, your customer relationships.
Yeah.
You rarely want to develop this unless you want to build a manufacturing company. You rarely want to develop the skills in building and running manufacturing facilities. So
totally,
that's what we want to do, and that's what Synonym aims to do. And we're delivering two types of products. One is dedicated facilities, and another one is multi-tenant. So with dedicated facilities, it's basically what it is. It's you instead of developing your own infrastructure, we would develop the infrastructure, own it, and help you manage it. And you would be, and that facility would be standardized from our perspective, but customized from your perspective. So generally, all the utilities and everything that has to do with power and water and waste management and all the shipping and receiving and even the fermenter sizes would be standardized. And then the downstream processing will be specific to your needs. And in the multi-tenant facility is just a larger campus, which incorporates these multiple facilities of that type within a single structure.
Got it. So smaller startups, it's safe to say, will go for, I would assume the cheaper option is the shared space, and then if they want more capacity, you can help them move on to a dedicated facility and lease it to them and build it to spec, essentially.
Or they have certain specialized processes. Like they need more room for DSP, and they think that a dedicated or the reactors that they need are smaller or larger, and they need something that's more customized, and their margins allow them to support that.
Got it. So how many, like when we talk about like a shared space, how many different companies would you be able to put in a single facility? How big are those buildings?
So what we've designed and planned so far is a facility that can be between 1.8 and 2.4 million liters. It has four dedicated trains, or up to four dedicated trains of 600,000 liters each. We've designed it for 150,000 liter fermenters with dedicated DSP and enough power and enough water to be used both for food grade facilities and for industrial grade. It's a massive undertaking, and we are in late stage site selection discussions for these facilities. We want to build many of these, but they're like the Falcon Heavy of biomanufacturing. It'll take a long time to get these to get these off the ground. At the same time, we're talking to a number of companies about smaller facilities, potentially facilities that are dedicated to them. They may be more expensive, but they also could be, if the company is a credible counterparty and they're producing. They have profitable unit economics at the scale that they need, then it may be easier to get these customized, dedicated facilities off the ground. Within the network of Synonym, they would still be more or less fungible.
In the sense that anybody can come, they can graduate to a different facility, and then other tenants can come in.
Yeah, in the sense that we would be the manager of that facility on behalf of the investors that are funding it, so that if something happens to that company, if there's something unforeseen, there will be someone who takes care of the facility and is able to bring someone else in, and we know exactly how that facility is constructed, operates, so it wouldn't be sold for pennies on the dollar, as many dedicated bespoke facilities have been in the pharma or in related biomanufacturing space.
Fascinating. And then when you talk about the shared facilities, would a food company be co-tenants with a biomanufacturing company, or are you building food specific shared spaces and just kind of breaking it out by vertical?
So upstream is all industrial grade, and upstream leading to fermentation. Where you need to have food-specific considerations is downstream, where you have a dedicated environment. It needs to be GRAS certified, and I mean you could have both. Industrial could have both companies that are producing collagen and beta-lactoglobulin in the same facility, just like you have at CMOs right now. But we're envisioning those trains to be logically and physically separated.
Got it. Makes sense. So I would love to talk about the software side of this. You've built you've launched two tools, and one of the, you're giving these tools away for free. One is called Scalar, and one is called Capacitor. Scalar is one of these tools that helps you as a startup estimate your capex and your cogs, and then Capacitor is kind of this like free resource for startups that shows kind of all the different biomanufacturing facilities across the world that they could potentially work with, in addition to Synonym. And so I would just love for you to kind of talk about these two projects briefly, and then like how that kind of helps further your cause and mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we started Synonym, I mentioned this. We talked to a number of companies in the space, and everyone was talking about the bottleneck in fermentation capacity or biomanufacturing capacity, and we thought that this bottleneck is caused by the lack of capacity. But it's not only that. The industry is still nascent. It has phenomenal promise, but we're still at very early stages. And when we started working on this problem a year and a half ago, it seemed to be extremely intransparent. You couldn't get an understanding of where these facilities are and who's actually providing capacity and who has what. And there was no really efficient way for facilities themselves, for CMOs and others that have fermentation capacity at different scales, from bench scale to pilot to demo to industrial scale. There wasn't a way for them to market their services. So we built Capacitor as a free global database of biomanufacturing capacity, and we were really surprised that how good of a product market fit that was. It turns out that companies really needed it, and we started getting love letters from customers, from companies in the space, saying how happy they are that Capacitor exists. And then at some point, I guess 3-4 months into us running Capacitor, facilities started coming to us. And we started with about 10 million liters of capacity. We partnered with GFI and MII, the GFI, the Good Food Institute, and MII, the Materials Innovation Initiative, and with Blue Horizon to launch Capacitor. And we used some of their media resources to popularize it. And then facilities started coming to us. And having started with about 10 million liters of capacity, over the next 9 months of running this service, it has grown to about 40 million liters. And we think that we have a pretty good picture of what is out there, what is available, what types of reactors are at different locations, and that has been an amazing tool both for facilities and for companies that are seeking capacity. And then the next step for us, as we were thinking of who would be the right customers for our facilities, we started analyzing some of their data, and we needed to conduct techno-economic analysis, or companies would come to us with their techno-economic analysis. And one problem that we noticed is that all of these techno-economic analyses are different. They are conducted they're made by different people. Companies use different assumptions, and we thought that we could standardize and automate that process. So after about a year of work, we launched Scalar at Scalar, which is at scalar.bio. And we really publicly announced it in May at SynBio Beta, and we launched it at the end of June. And the response has been phenomenal. We've built Scalar to provide an automated techno-economic. I mean, it's a tool to provide techno-economic analysis for fermentation, which covers a number of areas. First, you can determine where your facilities are, what the facility produces, the volume, and like what you want the output to be. You insert some data on your titer or yield, on what the cost of the product that you want to have. I mean, the at which you want to sell it. And within a matter of 30 seconds, it spits out a business plan. So it gives you sensitivity analysis, it gives you numbers on COGS, on your capex. It tells you whether what you're envisioning is actually financeable. Tells you what the yield would be to you or to the investors. I mean, I've run many reports, and they're different. And looking at different products, you see what makes a difference. So, and it was really surprising. We had expected usage to be a lot less than it actually is, and companies are, and we see what the way companies are using it. They're starting slow. They're entering some numbers, then they're sharing their results with colleagues, and these colleagues come in and they start tweaking the results together until they ultimately get to something that is shareable more broadly, and then they download a PDF and distribute to their investors or internally or other counterparties.
Interesting. It's a great way to get early traction when you have these long time horizons for the real estate side of things. When you talk about capex, isn't Synonym looking to kind of get to lower that capex for the business? Is this analysis being done in a world without Synonym, or is it looking at what the impact would be if they were to actually contract you to build a facility for them?
Yeah, so over time we would expect to lower capex through economies of scale. If we build hundreds of facilities, obviously it will be cheaper per facility than when we're building just one. That is one of the promises to the market. If you're working with a specialist, you get to economies of scale, and you can save on engineering work, which is what we're already delivering, because we have made engineering designs and we are working on multiple sites at the same time. So our site selection exercises are less expensive. So we're saving money. We're saving money to companies even by providing automated free techno-economic analysis to them. We've already, with the analysis that companies have run, we have already saved millions in terms of consulting fees that companies would have paid cumulatively, obviously. But they need to understand what it will cost for them to get to production in general, not just with Synonym. We will aim to lower capex. We'll also aim to lower OPEX through software and better operating approaches, better designs of facilities. And that's our raison d'etre. That's why we exist, because we want to lower the cost of production. And we can do that in three ways. We can lower the cost of building those facilities, and we can do it with scale. We can lower the cost of operations with different operational innovations, and we can lower the cost of capital. And through our network of partners, and we're now working with a number of strain development and strain optimization shops, we can help them make sure that they get to the right, they start thinking about scale and their path to scale at the right time, and and be directionally there.
Fascinating. I'd love to kind of dive into just the current market for fermentation. You mentioned some of these approaches before already, but we just had some news about Perfect. I actually just interviewed Tomorrow Farms, which is working with Perfect Day, and right after I put out that podcast, they announced that they were selling their consumer brand, the Urgent Company, and spinning that off, just to prove that these companies need to focus more and more on their core competencies, kind of as you alluded to. And obviously we have cultured meat, which had a lot of tailwinds now with the USDA approval. And then lastly, we have biomass fermentation, which I think we should talk more about, which is meaty and corn and some of these. I mean, corn's been around forever, but some of the fungi-based meat companies in this space. Like, where do you see the most demand right now, and where do you see kind of the market landscape right now?
Mm-hmm. So I think you touched on several points with respect to Perfect Day selling the urgent company. I think it's a great move because they do need to focus. Every company needs to focus, and I think that ultimately most companies working in this space will realize that they will realize that their partners, the CPGs that are already working with consumers, don't want, in many cases, don't want them to compete. Like they're fine with experimentation, but they hold the relationships with consumers, and they want their partners to succeed, and they want to be dedicated partners dedicated players in their supply chain. So, or dedicated parts of their supply chain. So, I think that Perfect Day has there was no one that would take the products. I mean, they are the leading company in the space, and they see more than others, and they have seen more than others because they've been around for a bit longer. So they needed to show consumers that these products make sense, and they needed to show that that there's nothing to be afraid of, that you can actually have great taste and great flavor and texture. But marketing to consumers is a completely different business than developing technology or producing at scale, or I don't know, dealing with packaging and distribution. So you need to choose your battles, and as a startup, you need to choose your battles wisely. So we see many companies in the space. And I think the most interesting companies are the ones that actually understand that. They're the ones that choose their battles and understand that you need to go after a specific market need, focus, and then when you're on more stable footing, you can see what your expansion opportunities are. So I think that there are many super interesting companies that are working on projects or opportunities that may be boring for consumers, like biopesticides or biofertilizers or different forms of biopreservatives. Consumers may not even notice them, but they are an integral part of our supply chains. And you want chemicals, different forms of different products from the petrochemical industry to be replaced with bio-based alternatives. It's healthier for you and healthier for the planet.
And then we look at like stuff like cultivated meat. Is that something that your facilities will be able to support, or is that something that is a unique flavor of these fermentation facilities?
So they're not using fermentation; they're using cultivation, which is a different process. And we've been approached by a number of cultivated meat companies because they all need to build facilities and they all need to produce at scale. We've been treading carefully because I'm not certain how cultivated meat gets to standards. Fermentation has been around for 40 years. You have pharma companies like Novo Nordisk that has been producing insulin for the last 40 years. We know that what needs to be done. We know the design of these bioreactors. We know what the downstream processing looks like. And there are several approaches. There are templates that can be followed. And this is something that is easier to understand for infrastructure investors. With cultivated meat, some of the technologies still need to be proven. And that's why you see cultivated meat companies develop their own facilities. Once we see a way to standardize, we'll be all over it. But it needs to be, we need to have standardization where companies are not coming to us and saying that they want to build their own bioreactors. And this is something that's happening with many cultivated meat companies. And here it's again a question of specialization and focus, working on the science related to cultivation, creating their own media and their own growth factors, and then making their own bioreactors, and then marketing these products to consumers requires a lot of capital and a lot of stamina and ability to handle very high levels of risk.
Yeah, it's a very Herculean task. And then lastly,
I'm glad you didn't say Sisyphean.
Say what?
I'm glad you didn't say Sisyphean.
What's that?
So this the myth of Sisyphus, who was who needed to take the stone up the mountain, and then once he would get to the top of the mountain, the stone would roll back.
Yeah. Then lastly, like looking at biomass. Is this something that you guys are interested in? These fungi-based meat alternatives we have.
Biomass fermentation is actually a low-hanging fruit as well, because the processes are more or less standardized. It's cheaper. The products that you could have higher yield, and the economics of biomass fermentation that we're seeing are actually quite good.
This has been a fascinating conversation, learning a lot. Kind of as we come towards the end here, I'd love to kind of get your takes on, the future, the next decade here. You've already kind of alluded to, the future of cultivated meat and some of the, milestones that need to be achieved. But what are your thoughts on what a platform like yours, as like kind of an AWS-like player doing fermentation as a service, what could we potentially see as consumers over the next decade plus as a result of essentially democratizing access to this kind of very high investment infrastructure and bring it to the masses?
I think that we're living in an amazing time for synthetic biology. The advent of AI, both large language models and reinforcement learning, is creating a unique opportunity for new types of products to be created. And we will see that both in pharma, where we'll see, I think we'll see personalized medicine and really amazing innovations come from the utilization of AI. At the same time, in the non-pharma biomanufacturing space, we'll see. We may. I think actually we may see non-pharma products created or aided by AI come to the market faster because they will not need to go through FDA approvals. They will follow the same processes, but we will just be able to develop them faster. And I mean, the promise of biomanufacturing is immense. If you look just at spider silk, like most consumers haven't touched that product yet. The spider silk strains are 2.5 times stronger than steel. There are opportunities to use them in textile for higher quality, more durable products. But you can also use spider silk to make materials for cars, like to replace steel in cars, to make the cars much lighter, to make airplanes, which could be lighter and could be electric. So these are biological products. I mean, there's so much that biology can teach us. There's a company called Ubli, which is making sweet proteins. It came out of Berkeley, out of research by this professor Jason Ryder. they discovered a protein in an oobleaf fruit that grows in some highlands of Africa, and that protein acts on our sweetness receptors, and it's not a carb. It's not a carb. Basically, most of the things that we've tried before are and things that are sweet are carbohydrates. This is a protein, so you need a lot less of it, and it doesn't have as much as high of a caloric value, but things taste just as sweet. It's a biological solution to a very eloquent biological solution to a problem that we have. You can also create enzymes that, and I talked to a company that's working on enzymes that are pulling rare earth metals like lithium out of salt brine using enzymes that originally were found in frogs to synthesize toxins that they use. So, and those toxins have rare earth metals in them. So there's an enzyme in the frog that pulls those rare earth metals directly out of the water or salt brine that the frog consumes. So, and chemically doing these things chemically is possible, but will take significantly longer, and it's more resource intensive, and it's not clear whether it's actually economical. Using biological methods, we can come up with very, very eloquent solutions, and AI will help with that, and hopefully Synonym will be able to help with building infrastructure and providing that ready-made infrastructure to be able to scale these solutions.
Fascinating. Well, Edward, this has been really awesome to hear more about Synonym and to learn from you. We have a lot of different types of people listening to this. If we have everyone from investors to techies to food companies, you name it. If people want to get in touch to learn more about how they could potentially work with you or work for you, now is your time to plug away.
Oh, everyone should go to synonym.bio and read about what we're doing. Those who need capacity can go to capacitor.bio. Those who want to run a free techno-economic analysis on their products can go to scalar.bio. But you can find all those links at synonym.bio as well as a form to fill out if you're interested in working with us in any way.
Amazing. All right. Well, thanks again, and can't wait to see how everything shakes out over the next couple of years for you guys.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you're curious to get a first-hand look at the cutting edge of food and tech, check out hungry.tv. That's Hungry with no U, where you can join in on live conversations like these or sign up for the free weekly newsletter.